Xbox Showcase 2026 is over, and despite it being a pretty well done production, we got news out of Asha Sharma that the Xbox game studio is going to go through layoffs in the next 100 days, and let us talk a little bit about that. If there's one thing that I think has been pretty consistent with the games industry since I've been working in it, it is layoffs. Pretty consistently across the board, a lot of companies will get to the point where they reach some level of success, try and do something more than what they can do with the personnel that they have on staff. They tend to overhire middle management, and then before you know it, you're out of money and you're laying off half of your staff. Tale as old as time. In the case of Xbox, we've got a massive company that before layoffs hit was over 20,000 people, which is a titanic number of people in general across the hardware and the game side of things. You have thousands of people working out of Blizzard alone, and you have a lot of companies that are taking 4 or 5, even 6, 7 years to actually get a product from the start to the finish line and actually out to the consumer. As soon as Asha Sharma took over the company, I think the biggest thing for me was just waiting for when we were going to get the next round of layoffs out of Xbox Studios. Because someone that's actually working in Xbox can probably attest to the fact that the whole process of working there under Microsoft is a pretty Byzantine process. You have a tremendous number of people across the board with this big push towards these massively spectacular games. It is just hiring more and more and more people. And a lot of these studios are in very high cost of living areas. So with Asha Sharma coming out and saying it's time for the next wave, it should be a surprise to no one. Even with a lot of good games coming out of the Xbox Live Showcase, we're still looking at a company that is tremendously behind on its financial metrics. In Asha Sharma's own memo, she said that they invested over $20 billion in content, platform, and hardware subsidiaries over the past 5 years, but annual revenue declined by over $500 million. And anyone that's been seeing the kind of games that have been coming out of Xbox has been, I don't think any of us are really surprised. We've got a lot of games that are coming out that are targeting not the core audience, but everybody. And when you're making a game for everybody, you're making a game for no one. You have a lot of studios that have decided to shove aside the actual players that would actually be interested in the game in the hopes that they can push their own personal luxury beliefs and actually get a new modern audience, which doesn't exactly exist. When companies push for things like this, they're pointing at articles that we see out of various research firms that insist that half of all gamers are women. And while that's true for the mobile space, that is not quite true for consoles in general. So when we see a lot of these companies that are going out and they are trying to basically get blood from a stone, it doesn't turn out well for most of them. On top of all this, you've got a lot of companies that are extremely bloated. And when they're extremely bloated, you have a big design by committee. I think we saw a good number of studios where they talk about their creative process and how they go in and they all come together and it's a big democratic process. And when it comes to having a creative vision for any kind of game, you don't want a democratic process. You want pure autocracy. You want one person that is there to tell people no if it's going to go against the creative vision. And you want someone that's going to be able to stand up and fight for the product for people that are way above any of you that are working on the game side of things. Because for these studios, they're going to have to go up and they're going to have to talk to the powers that be over at Microsoft, first Xbox, then Microsoft. It's a huge political process. Anyone that's worked under the Xbox or Microsoft umbrella can attest that there's a lot of layers there. There's a lot of politics there. The only time I've ever heard anyone say anything positive about a higher end manager over at Microsoft was someone that said they liked them because they were a sociopath that was good at firing people. And that's the only positive story that I have about that. One really positive thing about the Xbox Game Showcase was the fact that we weren't seeing any new live service games getting announced. We did see live service games talked about, but these were existing franchises. These were existing things that actually Microsoft has had around for a while, which is pretty expected. Since this announcement came out from Asha Sharma, we've been hearing little bits of rumors in the rumor mill talking about potential futures for Xbox in general. One of the things that's been floated around is the idea of maybe taking Xbox and removing it from the Microsoft umbrella so that it can take on other partnerships with other people. One of the big things that I think everyone's worried about is the cost of hardware, which for a little while there, the Steam Deck was one of the best deals in gaming, and now it is close to like $900 for the higher end model. One of the big issues that Xbox is seeing in general is the fact that Xbox subsidizes their hardware. In the case of Steam And Valve, like you're going to get a Steam Deck, you're mostly buying it at cost. Valve is not taking, they're not subsidizing any of that as far as I know. So the $900 for your Steam Deck that you're looking at on for current prices is pretty accurate to what the actual parts are costing. I can't imagine what the Steam machine is going to be costing here in the next couple of months. It's probably going to be extremely expensive between RAM and the actual hard drive costs. But in the case of Xbox, they've historically always been subsidizing their consoles. It's generally standard practice for a lot of these places to do that. One of my favorite stories of this whole Xbox in general was the original Xbox, where they were pitching the console to Ballmer and Bill Gates, where they were coming in and saying, this is what we wanted to do. And one of the big things was that it had a hard drive. And they had this massive session where it was just nonstop yelling. It's like, oh, this is going to be so expensive. Like, we're going to have to set this as the price to compete with the PlayStation 2. And this is going to lose us so much money. And it was a big to-do. And then finally, some other member in the meeting, they asked him for his feedback. And he simply said, but what about Sony? And then it suddenly was like, oh, yeah, what about Sony? Okay, I guess we'll subsidize these, at the time, very expensive consoles, which, looking back now, the Xbox, didn't have a lot of space on it. But for its time, it was extremely expensive. So we're encountering this situation again where, because of this huge drive for AI, all these component costs are extremely high. So even with the economy of scale these places would normally be getting, it's just not showing up. It's extremely, extremely expensive. What'll this mean for the next generation Xbox? I am not quite sure yet. I still believe that if Xbox could do it, if the thing that could really drive them to the leader of the market in terms of consoles would be to do a partnership with Valve. If their next Xbox could grant you access to your Steam library, that would change everything. So if you were able to have that and pair it with the idea of cloud gaming so that you could just get a Xbox controller and some kind of streaming stick to plug into your TV, I think that would be the best case scenario for Xbox. Some of you will inevitably say, well, Microsoft is like this multi-billion-dollar company. Why is it like the Xbox is having to deal with all this? Because aren't they making money hand over fist through like Microsoft Azure, which is their AWS competitor? And that's just not how these budgets work for these places. Like every game studio is going to have a spreadsheet of like their profit and loss, and then they're going to send that spreadsheet to Xbox. Xbox is going to put all their numbers into their own spreadsheet, and they're going to send that up to Microsoft. Then Microsoft's going to break down every like division into their own spreadsheet, and that's going to be the company. So right now, while their cloud division is making money hand over fist, their game studios are just really not performing. You do have some good games here and there, but by and large, these studios they're not any good. Now, what we're going to see from a lot of these places, I'm not sure. I'm hoping we're going to see this being an excuse to kind of lay off a lot of the less capable middle managers across the board. I'm hoping to see not so much of the individual contributors, but it'll be inevitable. If they could just get rid of all the people that are pushing for any of their luxury beliefs on the company dime, that would be a huge win for Xbox. None of these places should be going out and then being like, oh, we're going to virtue signal online for our personal beliefs. That is not a game studio. Your game studio needs to focus on, if you want to focus on local holidays, that's fine. But by and large, you should be focused on your game, and that's it. You should not be pointing towards anything that would be divisive. You don't point towards politics. You should not be pointing towards basically anything that could be considered like a flashpoint in general. Just don't talk about it. It's not that hard. But a lot of these places, they just can't do it. They could also get rid of a lot of these managers that are going around and saying things that are kind of crazy online. Basically just, check their blue sky if they have one. And if they're going on there, like making some rants that are generally inappropriate for the workplace, just get rid of them, because it's like someone that can't control what they're saying online, they're not worth having as managers. And a good manager would tell, lesser people on their team to be like, hey, maybe you don't go out there and then like attach your personal name and the company you work for and then make, a bunch of crazy statements online. These are all things that really need to happen across the entirety of the Xbox portfolio. Every studio needs to be looked at. We're going to need to cut people across the board. And I will say, as much as I'm for, it needs to be done where we need to be laying off a lot of people out of these companies. It's really unfortunate to see. I prefer companies to actually make money because I work in that industry. So it is important for me that we have the jobs available. I do not want to see like tons and tons of people losing their jobs and then being like, well, there's nothing else for me. For the activists and so forth that are kind of, they don't care about the player, good riddance. I do not miss you at all. Find a new industry. But there are a lot of people that actually really care about the games they're working on that are going to be impacted by this, and it's really unfortunate. And whenever something like this happens, like one thing, a lot of people that are pushing like luxury beliefs in general, a lot of these companies, and kind of pushing away their core audiences to say, oh, well, we don't care about them. They were the wrong audience. We need to make a new audience. For a lot of those places, you got these people that are coming in that are believing this, and they don't seem to understand that when they push for these things and they decide to push away the people that made these brands great in the first place so that they can make some kind of bastardized version of it, they don't seem to understand that that's going to cause like tremendous issues for all of their coworkers down the line. Because even if you are able to milk out like, you know, a little bit of success in the interim, eventually you're going to have to pay the bill. And when you pay the bill, a lot of people are going to be losing their jobs. A lot of people that aren't going to like just want to do good jobs for like their families, like they're going to have to potentially uproot their families and like their kids to move somewhere else because a bunch of idiots decided that they were going to, call the fans of various franchises idiots. It is a really hard place to be over at Microsoft because, you know, you had a lot of this being pushed for a long time where it was just like, oh no, those people bad, we're going to do all this stuff. And a lot of the projects that were kind of, you know, started in like 2020, 2021, where we were hitting a fever pitch of a lot of luxury beliefs getting pushed across the board. A lot of those are coming to roost and they're not looking that good. Like every so often we see something where you're like, maybe this could be good, maybe this could not be good. And then it's kind of a coin flip. My hope is that whatever happens, Xbox gets back into the business of actually making good games. We really cannot afford as an industry to continue doing this thing where we make games over the course of 5, 6, 7 years with titanic numbers of people and then just expecting it to sell like, you know, make $1 billion in revenue. It's unrealistic. A lot of the projects that need to be funded and actually, you know, worked on need to be significantly scaled down. And if we get back to this point where we're able to have these like moderately sized studios that are focusing on making good games instead of making, you know, a game for everyone, the better. As soon as we get to that point, Xbox is going to be in a good position. But right now, it's going to be rough. But that is it for today. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again in a future video. Farewell.